before we close out this podcast, we have to have a quick conversation.
You're already smiling. I got a feeling of where you're going to go.
Ear to ear right now, okay? The Edmonton Oilers got swept in 4 straight games to the Winnipeg Jets. Oilers fans, I tried to warn you multiple times throughout the season. Now, in saying that, I picked the Oilers to win that series in 6.
Yeah.
And Lepore picked the Oilers to win that series in 7. So we thought the Oilers were going to win this series. The Winnipeg Jets were without Nikolai Ehlers, who is an incredible hockey player. He missed the first 2 games. Pierre-Luc Dubois missed the first game. This was a shorthanded Jets team, a Jets team that was playing horrific hockey to end the season. They had the worst record in the NHL over their last 11 or 12 games of the season. It was not pretty. The Oilers beat the Jets 7 out of 9 times in the regular season. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl dominated the Jets in the regular season. But everything we talked about with the Edmonton Oilers reared its ugly head. I have talked ad nauseum this year how this team flat out is just not very good. I talked about how bad this team is specifically at 5-on-5 without Connor McDavid on the ice. And I will bring that stat up one more time. In the regular season, the Edmonton Oilers without Connor McDavid on the ice were minus 209 in scoring chance differential at 5-on-5. And they had a minus 17 goal differential without him. Think about that for a second. Without Connor McDavid on the ice, is that team, are they better than like the Arizona Coyotes? Are they better than a bottom 5 to 7 team in the NHL? And at the end of the day, listen, Oilers fans, I get it. The series was close. There was 3 overtime games. You lost by a goal 3 times. You look at the underlying numbers, they were close. But this just shows you this team, their depth is a disaster. Offensively, McDavid had 4 points in 4 games. Draisaitl had 5 points. That was below their standards. And literally, they needed those guys to be superhuman in order to win that series. And for Connor McDavid to have one of the greatest seasons we have ever seen, okay, averaging nearly 2 points a game, having one of the greatest seasons since Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, and to lose in 4 straight games in the first round, Lepore, that is flat out one of the most embarrassing things I have ever seen in the NHL. And I am not kidding, and I am not exaggerating.
I think you're pushing it, Bruno.
Okay, that was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And listen, I hope that they can figure this out.
Tampa got swept as the President's Trophy winner, man. I don't know. It's pretty bad. The Leafs blew a 3-1 lead in Game 7.
Listen, Lepore, all of those equally embarrassing. But I have this right at the top of my list in that same tier in terms of embarrassment level. And listen, I know the Oilers have like $22 to $25 million in cap space this offseason, and they're going to be able to add and try to surround McDavid and Draisaitl with some depth and some talent. But my God, Lepore, what a way to go out after a historic season from Connor McDavid. I can't believe it, but at the same time, I'm also not surprised that it happened. And it's just crazy that it happened in the first round. So
it's so hockey. Like, again, like we have a podcast, we talk about things, we break it down, but that whole thing, like that old saying of nothing matters except for the score when the clock hits 0. This series like made no sense. Like if you look at the metrics, like the Oilers controlled a lot of the play and they got swept. How? Like everything went Winnipeg's way in the way of fortune. And which is weird because it seemed like everything was going against Winnipeg going into this series. Like everything pointed to an Oilers win. I was listening to one podcast so they were going through series by series. And one guy was picking the Jets and like other people were laughing at him just based on like how this was going. And man, it's a big offseason for the Oilers. They have to sign some bodies. You mentioned the cap space. This team's got to find an identity, man. They really do. Like you look at the Penguins, like it seems like for the last, I guess, how long is it now? Like it's over a decade. They're able to find bodies, guys with roles who can fill in certain slots. and they're able to leave and get paid, and that is what it is. But that team always has an identity, and Edmonton's got to do that, man. Like, they have two generational talents. They have one phenom of a talent. It shouldn't be this hard. And I'm excited to see what they do. Like, they got even step one, they got to figure out their goaltending. Like, how they're going to figure that out. I had one guy say, and who knows what's going to be available, but he's like, well, if you're Edmonton, what wouldn't you throw at Rask? Just to at least be, okay, well, we have McDavid, Draisaitl, and a goalie. Like, we know we have that taken care of. But for Oilers fans, man, like, exciting year. I almost feel kind of bad because, like you said, it would nice be, again, comment down below. Like, I'd love to know what Oilers fans really and truly are feeling about this series. Like, are they feeling like they were just crazy unlucky? Are they feeling like they just got totally exposed? I don't know. At the end of the day, and like we did say this about the Jets. The Jets have a goalie and they have game breakers. So I'm not going to say, oh, they can beat anyone, but just about. Like, if things go their way, kind of like they did in this series. Like I mentioned, Money Puck had the Oilers in every game in this series, and some of the games pretty heavily. But when you have Connor, when you have Scheifele, when you have Ehlers, these guys who can score. Oh my God, that overtime goal by Ehlers.
Oh,
what a shot.
That dude is so electric, man.
What a shot.
And when he gets matched up against like non-first line players, because he kind of gets hidden because he's not on that Scheifele and Wheeler line. Right. Oh my God, he is just out there making people look silly sometimes, man. He's such a good player. What
a player. And one thing too, like, here I am, like, I love advanced stats and I love looking at metrics. Even, like, again, they're not the be all end all, but they're a tool to help us see more. The Jets are, now that I think about it, they're a team that, like I said, because they have so many game breakers, those underlying numbers are less relevant because they have so much of that game breaking talent. Like, whenever we look at these charts, they're based on the average player and the average goalie. So like I would say, for example, okay, like the Leafs have a lot of offensive firepower. So if someone told me, okay, every game versus Montreal, the deserve a win meter on Money Puck is going to be 50-50, I'd say the Leafs are going to win. I'd be very confident the Leafs are going to win because we have that shooting talent. So if Austin Matthews gets the same amount of chance as X player on the Canadiens, well, I'd like to think we're going to come out on top. The Jets are similar in that regard. With those types of players, they can be outplayed. They don't need many chances, and they can beat you. One team, and it's like Leafs Twitter, I've seen a lot of comparisons to the 2013 Leafs, a team that like was terrible defensively, which the Jets are. But I think the difference is the Jets have an A+ goalie compared to that 2013 Leafs team. But that Leafs team had a lot of talent that didn't need a lot of chances to capitalize. Like, they had Kessel. I mean, like, people forget about like the depth that team had, like with their third line with Kuhlman, MacArthur, and Grabovski. Like, those guys, they could put the puck in the net. Like Lupo, Kadri, those guys, like, they were having good seasons. The puck was going in for them. Now, like, that team is not as good as today's Jets team, and I'll be quick to say that. But similar, like Leafs fans have said, it's similar in the way that that team got outplayed all year and was able to put together a good record and almost beat the Bruins because of that. Like, they didn't need many chances. And that's what this Jets team is, just a better version of it with a very good goalie and a very good coach. So props to the Jets. But again, like, I'd love to listen to Oilers fans and tell me what they're thinking. Because even like the offseason, man, that's a lot of money open. That's a lot of money open. And you could be excited if you're an Oilers fan, or you could be scared. Because what something like this can do, it can fuck shit up in a hurry. Because if they see this as a disaster and it's something that has to be fixed quickly, and I don't think Ken Holland's that guy. I think he's too smart, too patient. He's been around for too long. This is where mistakes can be made.
Yeah, Lepore, one bad signing and that fucks up everything.
Exactly. Well, overpaying a winger who doesn't deserve it, or giving a guy too much term or something like. So, or even that, then that's one. They have the cap space. It could happen with two. And yeah, we'll see how Holland approaches it, because I mean, you're not just going to want to fill all that money in free agency. I mean, Nugent Hopkins is up, isn't he?
Yeah,
like, that's
Nugent
a name I've seen
Hopkins is
around.
up. Adam Larson, Tyson Barrie,
Barrie.
Smith
Oh my God,
is a free agent. Yeah, they got some money coming off the books, man. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they fill these spots and supplement McDavid and Draisaitl. But here's the thing I'll tell Oilers fans, and Lepore, you just said, like, it's not as easy as it sounds. Like, just because you have all this money, you got to continue to make smart decisions. You cannot be wasting cap space on guys that don't deserve the money or the term. Like, for example, I look at a guy like Tyson Barrie, who, sure, he was great on the power play this year, led all D-men in scoring. But when you look at the underlying numbers, like Edmonton was not very, like with Tyson Barrie on the ice at 5-on-5, it was essentially like a wash. Like they were just like a average team. Even like scoring chances against, like Tyson Barrie gave up a lot of scoring chances when he was on the ice this year. So don't be like, I would be very hesitant to give a guy like that, like a 5 or 6 year deal for who knows how much money. Like those are the decisions that you have to make now, being Ken Holland and being in this situation where, like you said, Lepore, you have 2 generational talents. You overpay one guy, or you give a goalie too much money. Like, look at Florida giving Bobrovsky $10 million, right?
Imagine they had that money.
Oh my God. Like, imagine Florida allocating that $10 million to their decor or their forward group.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Or that ability to like make a trade and add a star player. Like, who wouldn't want to go there right now? And that's the thing too, like to the point of the Oilers having this cap space, like you're not the New York Rangers. Not everyone's running to come play for the Edmonton Oilers. And people know what I mean by that, as condescending as it sounds, but you're not that market. You're not Broadway, right? So
exactly. And that's why I fear that the Oilers might have to overpay someone who probably doesn't deserve a contract like that. That's why I hope, honestly, I really do hope that Ken Holland is ready to make some smart, tough decisions here and not just go out and spend all the money that they have. And you know what? I think that he is going to make smart decisions because we saw his press conference after the trade deadline where he said, listen, you have to pick and choose and you can't go all in every year. And clearly they did not go all in this year because all they did was pick up Dmitry Kulikov at the trade deadline, because I think Ken Holland was fully aware that despite McDavid and Draisaitl playing out of their minds this season, that this team just wasn't quite ready to make a legitimate run to the Stanley Cup final.
The Barrie one scares me, man. Like you mentioning Barrie, I'm like, yeah, that could be one I could see. Like he put up numbers, a big contract. He fits in with the style of that team, like high flying and scoring. So you said his 5-on-5 scoring chance differential or goal differential was about even when he's on the ice.
The goal differential was essentially even. The high danger scoring chance differential, they were like minus 24 this season.
And think about that, man.
Ice at 5-on-5.
That guy, so that guy is, even if he's playing even and he's on the ice with McDavid and Draisaitl a lot, like that's bad. Like if you're even, that's bad.
That's not good.
That's not good.
Another stat I checked out about Barrie Lepore. Did you know he led all D-men in secondary assists this season?
Oh, of course he did. That doesn't shock me at all. Yeah.
Secondary assists. So for all the Oilers fans being like, this is Paul Coffey and he led all D-men in scoring, like he had 27 secondary assists and had a ton of points on that power play. So
I find it so funny. I find it so funny how like the new hockey fan is like a total nerd and a total geek and brings up all these crazy numbers. But I've always found it weird how not more is talked about second assists, like second assists on the power play and stuff. Like say when you compare scoring and players, like, okay, 2 guys that get 2 good players who get 80 points. Well, this guy only had 20 seconds. Like you mentioned, to your point, if you're comparing 2 defensemen who put up a lot of points and you tell me one had 27 second assists and one had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 compared to primary assists and goals, it's like, yeah, that's huge. I find it weird how we don't bring that up more often. Right.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Right. Because it shows you, like, when you're playing on a team with talents like McDavid and Draisaitl, and especially when you're running a power play with those 2 guys, like there's really not much you need to do. You just need to be there and be competent, and you're going to pick up points. And listen, not taking away anything from Tyson Barrie, like to lead all defensemen in scoring, that's great. Like, congrats to him. Great bounce back season. But when you peel it back a little bit and you look at some of these other numbers, it's like I said, that's a situation where I would be very, very hesitant to just throw money to that guy and be like, well, come back. You're our number 1 defenseman. 5-year contract for $7 million a year. Like that is not going to look good, Lepore. I promise you.
And based on the season he had, like someone's going to do it. Like he's going to get term and a contract. So, and like you said, maybe Edmonton will have to overpay and it could get dangerous. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be super interesting to see what happens to the Oilers over the course of the offseason, because like it's two-sided. The one side of this is going to end up really bad, but then the other side calms you down because of Ken Holland, where it's like he's not going to panic. He's not going to lie to himself and think he has something that he doesn't have.
Yeah, exactly. And before we wrap this thing up, Lepore, you mentioned it, like shout out to the Winnipeg Jets. Those game breakers, Ehlers scoring the OT winner in game 3, Kyle Connor scoring the OT winner in game 4. And
that comeback, we even talk about that crazy, the 4-1 comeback.
Unbelievable, man. Yeah. That was another thing. Exactly. The Oilers pulled the Leafs in game 3, blowing a 4-1 third period lead. I mean, everything just came crashing down for the Oilers. And another thing that we mentioned in our last episode, Connor Hellebuck, who had an .877 save percentage against Edmonton in the regular season. Well, look what he did in the playoffs.
It all evens out.
50 save percentage in 4 games. So Connor Hellebuck, ladies and gentlemen, he has arrived. And if the Leafs or the Habs by miracle advance to the second round, that is not a guy that I want to face. Going from, especially if you're the Leafs, going from Carey Price to Connor Hellebuck, it's basically
awesome.
Oh my goodness, that's going to be terrifying to deal with if the Leafs make it to this second round. But